Hello! Welcome to this beginning yoga class. Let's get started. Let's start standing at the front of our mat, taking a moment to close the eyes, tuning in with our breath, letting the shoulders drop down away from the ears, and then just starting to rock gently from the balls of the feet to the heels, still with the eyes closed. Just kind of noticing how our weight is distributed as we sway from forward to back. And then finding a halfway place where the weight is evenly balanced halfway between the balls of the feet and the heels. We'll pause, inhaling, bringing the arms up, stretch, wiggling through the fingers, circling out the wrists, and then dropping the right arm down to the side. We'll start to kind of reach as we tilt, reaching with both sets of fingertips away from each other. Inhale the right arm back up. Left arm comes down. Circling out the wrists. We'll just do this a couple more times, really reaching the hands apart so you feel a nice opposition of stretch. Other side when you're ready. And then bringing both arms back up. We'll slowly circle them back behind us as if we were spreading our wings. Trying to keep the rib cage knitted together. So if you feel like your ribs are flaring open, kind of engage in the belly a little bit, bringing some core work into this. Squeezing your shoulder blades together as they slowly float the arms down. And then at the bottom, letting your hands kind of hang heavy, relaxing the shoulders. We'll drop the chin to the chest, bending into the knees gently. Exhale every last bit of air. On an inhale, shrug the shoulders up, opening the heart towards the ceiling. Squeeze the elbows as if they're going to touch behind you. Deep inhale, exhale, curl, bending the knees, caving forward, letting the chin drop to the chest. Couple more of these at your own pace. And then next time you come forward, keep sliding the hands all the way down, coming into a forward fold. If you have pretty tight hamstrings, keep a little bend in the knees so you can really focus on letting the spine drape down over the legs, feeling some nice length in the neck. Nod your head yes, and shake your head no. On an inhale, come up halfway with the torso, flat back, straight legs. Exhale back down, bend the knees again if you need to. And then we're going to plant the hands, so bend the knees if you need to set those hands down. Slowly walk the feet back to a plank. If plank isn't working for you today, you can also put the knees down, trying to keep the hips a little bit forward of the knees so you do feel some work in the arms and core. Whichever version you choose, we're going to walk the hands back towards the feet or knees. If you're staying on your knees, you'll just walk from here back. Otherwise, we'll walk to a forward fold, pause, walk out to a plank, pause. To a forward fold, and walking back to a plank. Last one. Holding for a full 3 breaths at your own pace, keeping the breaths long and controlled, squeezing those legs together, extending through the crown of the head, and then dropping the knees one by one, or sliding them in a little bit closer if they were already down, so that they're stacked right under the hips. Let's take a couple cat-cows, really dropping the belly button down towards the floor, look up between the eyebrows. Exhale, push the floor away. Inhaling to cat. And exhaling cow. Couple more at your own breath pace, closing your eyes if you need to. Tune in with your own breath. And then coming back through tabletop, we're going to work our back of the body a little bit. Extending through the right fingertips, we'll bring the left leg up. Trying to keep these as if we had headlights on the front of the hips. Try to keep your headlights facing the floor so the hips are even. From here, we're going to really laser beam, reach as if laser beams are shooting out of your fingers and out of your toes. Extend long. Exhale. Every last bit of air. Kind of curl up the spine, touch the elbow to knee. Inhale, reach 5 more times at your own pace. 3. 4, really reaching super long. Trying to get as long as possible, drawing in the low belly. And then placing that back down. We'll tuck the toes and shift the weight back for this variation of a child's pose to stretch out our feet as well. Setting the forehead down. Just relax for a few breaths. Letting all of your weight sink down into the earth. Letting it all go. Pushing into the hands to come back to all fours. We'll extend through the left arm and the right leg. Reach, 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 super long, drawing in the low belly, keeping those hips square. Exhale, contract. Inhale, lengthen. 5 at your own pace. Squeezing every last bit of air out the lungs on the exhale. Inhaling, stretch as long as you can. And last one, sitting the knee down, pausing to kind of stretch out our hands after a couple of things we've done. So peeling off the palm, following as if you're going to take one digit off the floor at a time. Pivot the fingers a little bit wider each time you place the hand back down until your fingertips are facing your knees. And we'll pause here, shifting our weight a little bit back. Stretch out the front of the forearms. And you can let your head hang heavy. Slowly bending our weight back over. We'll just kind of circle out the wrists for a moment. These are really good exercises if you do a lot of computer work. And then flicking sparkles out to the universe. Sparkle yourself. And out to the side. Cool. We're going to do a little bit more of a Pilates core work for a moment before we continue with the yoga flow. So we'll scooch our back. And for this first exercise, we're going to keep the knees stacked right over the hips. To find the flat back against the floor, it's helpful to push the knees into the palms first. And then feel the space around your low back. If you can slide your hand underneath your back, that means you're arching. So you want to try to get the low back as flat as possible on the ground, which means you'll have to really engage in the lower core. So trying to keep that low core engaged, we're going to slowly dip one foot down as we extend that same side arm up. Come back to this tabletop active position. Dip and come back. And we'll keep doing this for about 10 to 15 reps. Really pushing the knee into the palm each time they're making contact. Trying to keep the low belly engaged the whole time. Keep it going. Try to avoid bringing the knee too far towards the face, because that'll make it easier. Keep checking that feeling of your low back being flat on the ground. If it's starting to peel off, pause for a moment, see if you can really draw in the low belly to keep it flat on the floor. That way we can really target those lower abs, which are really essential for good posture, all sorts of good stuff. Cool, pausing again in tabletop, take one more little push, and then we'll drop the knees wide. If you need to hold on to the sides of your thighs, if it's too much of a stretch, you can. Just take a little break and massage out your belly if you need to. And then we're going to do something similar, but with a bit of a twist. So we'll again come back to this tabletop, pushing the knees into the palms. Keeping that activation in the core, bring the arms to the side, and we're going to slowly, slowly hinge to the side, trying to use the core for this whole motion. So you're not just letting your legs drop to the side, you're really actively drawing in the low belly, controlling the motion as you slowly bring the knees to the side, and kind of keeping them in that same place over the hip the whole time. And then if you want to tie your breath into the motion, inhale through the center, exhale as you twist. Couple more. Inhaling through the center, draw in that low belly, squeeze the core, all those muscles, staying nice and active. Awesome. Last two. Wonderful. Hugging in the knees for a moment, kind of like squeezing them from side to side, windshield wipering them. And we're going to turn that into a bit of a rock and roll, as long as you have a soft enough floor that you're practicing on. Otherwise, you can just skip these, but we're going to rock and roll a couple times. And then crossing the ankles, roll over the knees, coming back to all fours. Tuck the toes behind you, pushing your hips high to come to our first downward dog. So if you're not super used to doing downward dog, you can always check the distance by coming back to a plank, making sure your shoulders are right over the hands, and then shift your hips back from there. If you feel like you're going to slide out, you can always step a little bit farther forward, and then do keep your knees bent if you need to get your whole spine in one nice straight line from your hips down through the crown of your head. From there, work towards dropping the heels down towards the floor and straightening the legs. Keep pushing the floor with all 5 fingers of each hand, and let that neck and head relax between the shoulders. A couple more breaths here. And then let's start kind of pedaling out the feet, peeling off one foot at a time, setting it back down, just kind of stretching through all parts of the foot. And then inching our way forward each time now as we take the foot off, bending into the knees if you need to tiptoe walk your feet towards your hands. We'll pause here, holding the elbows. Just focusing on length in the spine. Bend the knees, tuck your tailbone down towards the floor, letting the rest of your spine hang heavy as you roll up one vertebrae at a time. Head is the last to arrive. We'll squeeze the shoulders up to the ears at the top and relax. One more time, squeeze, 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 and relax. Cool, moving along to a sun salutation now. Let's inhale our arms up. Exhaling hands through heart center, finding that equal standing we found at the beginning for one moment. Weight halfway between the balls of the feet and the heels. Inhaling up, arms up. Exhale, we'll dive down with the torso now. All the way over those straight legs. Bend the knees at the bottom if you need to drape the spine fully. Inhale, halfway lift, hands come to shins, or thighs, or you can leave them on the ground if you have pretty loose hamstrings. Exhale, dive back down. Walk our feet back to a plank. Pausing here, in your version of plank if you need your knees down, totally fine. Plank. And then we're going to take a slow motion lower with the elbows in towards the ribs as opposed to like a wide elbowed push-up position. Let's do elbows in, lowering all the way to the floor. Let the tops of the toes roll to the ground. And then sliding our elbows beneath the shoulders, we'll come up to cobra. In this cobra pose, think about pushing those flat palms into the floor and then dragging kind of like you're trying to pull the floor towards you to really activate those shoulders, everything in the sides of your back like the lats. It's really working to lengthen that low back out of the hips as you push the tops of the toes into the floor. Closing the eyes for a moment, just feeling the work and the stretch here. And then we'll slowly dip back down, tucking those toes behind us. We'll push back to a wide knee child's pose. If you have sensitive knees, you can always put a pillow under your seat to kind of relieve a bit of the pressure on the knees. That can help. Otherwise, you could kind of stay up more into a happy puppy pose if that also doesn't feel good. Settling down, torso between the knees otherwise. Take a full couple of breaths here. Letting everything settle. And then pushing into the hands to come back up to our downward dog. We'll pause here again for a few breaths. Pushing the floor away with all 5 fingers of each hand. Shrugging the shoulders down away from the ears. Imagining like there's some kind of string lifting our hips up towards the ceiling behind us. Bending into the left knee, we're going to slide that knee forward, trying to hover it for as long as possible to step the foot between the hands. Coming to this nice lunge, you can kind of adjust, sliding your back leg back if you need to. Make sure this ankle is stacked directly under this knee though, to avoid putting too much pressure on that knee. And from here, to keep those legs active as we stretch them, let's think about pushing the back of our right knee up towards the ceiling behind us as you drop the hips down towards the floor for a nice active stretch. Setting that back knee down now, we'll straighten into this front leg, flexing the toes. If you need blocks, or if you want to work on your balance, or if your hamstrings are pretty tight, you put your hands on your hips and hinge forward. Otherwise, you could have your blocks here or pillows. Wherever you are, just taking a full 2 to 3 breaths. And then when you're ready, we'll lean back into this front foot, bringing the back knee off. Seeing if we can take one slow step back to parallel feet in our forward fold. We're going to bend the knees so deeply that we can actually slide the hands underneath the feet for a handstand. Ha ha ha. Sorry, I always have to make a stupid joke about this one. This is a really nice massage for the hands though, if you can kind of rock from side to side with the weight in the toes, massaging all the meaty parts of the hand, those hands that work so hard, doing all sorts of things for you. And then when you're ready, release one hand to the hips, and we'll come up with a flat back this time, finding a little baby back bend at the top, squeezing our elbows together, looking up, heart open, and exhale, coming back to equal standing for a moment with the eyes closed. From equal standing, inhaling the arms up one more time, gathering some sunny energy, bringing it down into the center of your being as you hinge forward over those straight legs, bending the knees at the bottom if you need to. Inhaling, halfway lift, flat back, straight legs. Exhale, dive back down, placing the hands shoulder width apart, stepping back to our plank. We'll pause here for a full breath, really pulling length all the way from our heels to the crown of our head, shoulders down the back so the collarbones are nice and long and wide, rather. On an exhale, lowering all the way to the belly, sliding the hands forward to our cobra, pull the floor towards you, and take a few breaths here. Thinking about really extending the neck long and up towards the sky, shrugging the shoulders down the back, keeping a little bit of pressure, pushing the tops of the toes into the floor as you pull forward with those hands on the ground. Exhale, diving back down, tuck the toes. Push back to a knees together child's pose or happy puppy pose. Whichever version works better for your knees. Sinking in for a moment, letting it all go. Letting go of your thoughts of what you should be doing. And just being with your body as you are. Appreciating all that it does for you. Pushing back into the floor with the hands. We'll tuck the toes. Hips back up towards the sky for our downward dog. Thinking about pushing that floor away, reaching the heels for the floor. And while we're here, we're going to come up to our tiptoes and kind of rock the heels to the left, bending into the knees, as both hands stay glued to the ground. So we'll get a bit of a side stretch in this right side body. Nice few moments here. And coming back through center to the tiptoes, rocking the hips to the right. So we're getting a nice side stretch in the left side body now. Really pushing through both hands, trying to keep the weight pretty equal. Coming back through center, dropping the heels briefly. And then we're going to slow step this right foot forward, hovering the foot and knee as long as possible to step the foot between the hands for our lunge. Kind of resituating if you need to get that knee stacked right over the ankle. Remember, you can really stress out your knee if you're lunging too far forward of the ankle, so just always be mindful of stacking your joints. Pushing that back knee up towards the sky as you drop your hips down. Nice active stretch here. And then we'll drop that knee down to the floor, flexing the foot as we straighten that front right leg. Bowing in, hands on hips for balance, or using those blocks on either side of the leg if you need. Wherever you are, kind of waving the spine down the leg to get a little bit more length. And just kind of tell your body it's okay to release, relax, and open. Bending back into that knee, placing the hands on either side of that foot. We'll shift our weight forward, taking a slow step to parallel feet. Toe heel the feet wider than the mat, or wider than your hips at least. Toes a little bit turned out, and we're going to use our hands on the floor as we slowly lower our hips into a squat. If a squat is really hard for your Achilles or back of the leg to keep the heels down, totally fine to be on your tiptoes and kind of use your hands for balance. We're working towards eventually getting the heels down and seeing how far you can bow forward with the torso and hands. From here, we'll push into the floor again, using our hands as support so we're not stressing our knees out too much, to come back to a forward fold. Keep those knees a little bit bent to roll all the way up, and shrugging those shoulders up and down in a couple circles when we reach the top in either direction. circling out the knees in either direction. And then taking a big side step, we'll circle out the hips in a big slow circle in either direction. Keeping our feet maybe even a little bit wider now with the toes turned out. We're going to bring our arms out to the side for balance and slowly start to bend into this horse pose, or otherwise known as a plie type of squat. We'll dip the right shoulder in with our hands placed on the thighs and look over the left shoulder for a moment. This is another one of those to make sure the knees stay stacked right over the ankles. Dip the left shoulder in, look over the right. If your knees are farther this way, that's okay, but you don't ever want to be kind of extended over the ankle, that forward direction. Coming back through center, we'll bring the arms out to the side, sink a little bit lower, and then coming all the way back up. Inhale long, exhale down. A couple more at your own pace. Inhaling long, exhaling down. Next time we come up, let's see if we can come to tiptoes. Drop the heels, pivot the toes a little bit forward. And we're going to come down with a flat back all the way forward to a nice wide-legged fold. Nodding your head yes, and shaking your head no. Coming up with the hands on the ground if you can reach. And we're going to bring the right arm up towards the sky. Look up at that hand, and then look down at your other. Keep a little bend in your knees if you need to here so that you can focus on this motion with the neck and the hands. Switching arms now, right hand down, left arm up. Gently looking up towards the left hand, down towards the right. Last one, bringing the hands back down. We'll walk our hands a little bit farther forward if that feels okay, sinking the heart down towards the floor, towards the earth. And just letting go of any tension you have in your face, any tension you have in your neck, your upper back. Exhaling it all away. Shifting our weight a little bit farther forward now as if you're going into a plank. We'll set the knees back down to the floor gently. Crossing the ankles or kind of shifting off to the side to come back to our back. We're going to hug the knees into the chest, giving ourselves a squeeze here. Taking nice, full, long breaths. Just kind of scanning the body, noticing any sensations. Slowly letting the knees splay open a little bit. We're going to hug the knees towards their respective armpit. So right knee to right armpit, left knee to left armpit. A few more deep breaths here. And then letting those feet come to the floor. We're going to plant the feet parallel, a little bit in front of the hips. The hands will come down by the hips. I'm going to push the pelvis up towards the sky for this version of bridge. Pause here for a few breaths. Spreading the fingertips wide on the floor to push down, flat into the floor and the toes. Weight is even between the heels and the balls of the feet like we did in that standing position. And we're gently pushing down with those palms. If you want to work your balance now, you can slowly bring the arms up towards the sky. Holding, spot check with those thumbs to make sure your hips are evenly pushed up towards the ceiling. And to keep a little micro space between your chin and your chest so your whole neck is lengthening along the ground. Push those hips up a little bit higher And then on the way down, we're going to think about setting one vertebrae down at a time. The pelvis and hips will be last. So kind of undulating in reverse, one vertebrae at a time. Awesome. Flexing the right foot, we're going to set that on top of the left leg, so a little bit below the knee if possible. Grabbing under the thigh if you can, or the shin, whatever's accessible. We'll pull this in for a nice figure 4 stretch. Keeping our breaths long and slow. And allowing every surface of our body that's making contact with the floor to really release and relax. Slowly releasing your hands. We're going to keep this orientation of our feet and legs. Hands will come to the side bodies. And we're going to slowly drop the legs to the left. If that gets too intense, you can cross your legs. It's totally optional. But we're going to see if we can drop everything off to the left for this twist, this version of a twist. And if you want a little bit more, you can put your hand on the outside of that right leg and then turn to face your right palm that's flat on the floor. Crossing those legs fully now to get that right knee closer to the floor. We'll take a few breaths here. Twists are really excellent for digestion, actually, and giving the internal organs a little bit of relief, especially if the muscles around them are tight. So feels good, and it's good for you. Going back through center. We'll straighten both legs up towards the ceiling for a moment, and kind of circle out the ankles and feet. I almost called them wrists. Those are not wrists. Cool. Now bringing the left foot flexed down on top of the right leg somewhere, reaching behind that thigh. Shin wherever you can reach that's accessible to you. Keep this foot flexed to protect your knee, and we'll gently start to pull that all in towards the chest. Again, relaxing everything into the floor as you gently pull the legs in closer towards the chest. Sometimes it helps when you're doing an intense stretch to really kind of almost smile, even if you're not feeling like smiling. Smiling helps relax the muscles of the face, and that can translate to the rest of the body and nervous system. A few more deep breaths. And then we're going to slowly drop this all off to the right this time, using your hand if you need to control it. Once you reach the ground, we'll shift our gaze towards the left hand, palm face down towards the floor. Taking this nice hip twist. You can push this knee farther away from you if you need a little bit more of a stretch. And then crossing the legs fully, we'll start to drop that left knee down towards the floor more for the full twist. Each time you inhale, think about the spine gently lengthening along the floor. As you exhale, think about twisting a little bit more, as if you're wringing out those internal organs, giving them a little cleaning. Metaphorical cleaning, of course. Coming back through center, we'll hug both knees into the chest, straighten the legs up towards the sky, circle out those ankles again. And then we're going to do a slow motion descent either with bent knees or straight legs if you want more of a challenge. But whichever you choose, try to keep your low back flat on the floor as you lower all the way down. Relaxing here for a moment. Kind of swimming out the legs in any way that feels good. Freestyle swimming. We're going to roll over to our side for just a couple more hip opening stretches. Butterfly pose is next, so bringing the soles of the feet together. If you have pretty tight hips and you need to put pillows underneath your knees, that's totally a great variation. But we're going to try to bring the heels in as close as feels good to us today towards the torso. Sit up nice and tall, closing the eyes. Using the hands on the toes as a little bit of an anchor. Start to imagine like we're going to bring our belly button straight towards those feet and hands. So instead of rounding, try to keep the back fairly flat as you come forward. And then on your next exhale, we'll allow the spine to round. Coming down to wherever comfortable stretches for you today, letting your head hang heavy. Relaxing into this butterfly stretch. Allowing your attention to go inward again. Noticing the lungs, the capacity of your inhale, how long the exhale is. Slowly walking your hands back up. I'm going to slide the left leg out to the side, flexing that foot, trying to sit up nice and tall. We're going to go for Janu Shirshasana or head to knee pose. So turning to face this straight leg, we'll put one hand on either side of the leg if that's possible. And we're going to hinge forward as if we're going to put our head on our knee. Walking our hands back up. We're going to keep this right leg bent. Open it a little bit. Grab blocks if you need to, if you know you use them for pigeon. We're going to do this interesting pivot. So be mindful of your own hips. If you have anything going on in your hips or your knees, you might want to avoid this transition and just go in from like all fours like we were before. But if it feels okay to roll all the way over your hip, we're going to make our way to pigeon pose. The goal will be to get the hips square towards the floor. So if this left hip comes up a lot, bring yourself up higher. So your hands might be here with your blocks. Wherever you are, keep this front foot flexed. We're going to pause here for a moment, tiptoe walking the fingers back to get a bit of an open heart, upper back stretch here. Shifting the gaze upward. And then on an exhale, we'll walk the hands forward, coming to our reclined pigeon, allowing ourselves to really melt into the floor. Kind of stretching all parts of the hips today. One more full, long inhale and exhale. Sending love to your hips. Slowly walk our way back up. Pivot our weight to the right to kind of come through a middle straddle for a moment. This is a really nice one to do with a little throne of cushions or blocks under your hips if you need. We'll just take a brief moment here, bowing forward, trying to get our belly button to come down towards the floor first. So if that means you're just staying upright and feeling the stretch, that's great. Keep both feet really flexed, straight up towards the sky. And then when you get to the point where you need to round, rounding in. Slowly coming back up. We'll bring that left leg in for Janu Shirshasana on the other side, turning to face the right leg. One hand on either side of that leg, bowing in to honor this right leg. Letting the head hang heavy before slowly walking your way back up. Pivoting this left leg out just a tad, but keeping that knee bent. We're going to roll all the way over for our pigeon pose on the other side. So rolling this right hip down. Again, if you have your blocks handy, you would have one on either side of your hips, using them right here, trying to get the hips square towards the front of the room. Wherever you are, we'll start to tiptoe walk our blocks or our fingers back behind us, shifting the gaze upward, flexing this front foot, pushing it down into the floor as we lift the heart up towards the sky. One glorious breath, and then walking it down to our reclined pigeon. Settling in, letting it all sink down into the earth. Releasing any thoughts you have, any tense parts of the body. Imagine them sinking down into the depths of the earth. And walking yourself back up. We'll pivot back again through this straddle stretch. Sitting up nice and tall. I'll just show this second time with a cushion. Should have done it the first time, my apologies. But if you have a cushion, you can kind of sit on it with your legs in a straddle. Slowly rock your hips forward so it almost feels like you're going to fall off the cushion. Put your hands in front and then stretch from there. That way you can isolate stretching your hamstrings versus curling in the low back and kind of stretching your low back only. So this is a way to keep the low back in neutral as you stretch forward into your straddle. Taking a full round of breath here, closing the eyes, tuning in with your own body. And then we'll make our way back out to the depth of our stretch, sliding the legs together. Only a couple more poses before the end of this practice. Thanks for sticking with me. So last real active pose. Actually, if you have a cushion, it might be handy. You can sit on it for this version of a hamstring stretch, otherwise known as Dandasana. So coming up, arms overhead, stretching those fingertips up towards the sky. We're going to flex those feet so hard that it almost feels like you could float your heels off the floor someday. Being mindful, of course, of your hamstrings. So just doing it to the point of sensation. Always avoid injurious pain. It's good to have sensation but not pain. Pushing ourselves is good, but you want to be able to make progress instead of injuring yourself. So finding that balance between pushing enough to get to your edge, but honoring your own boundaries. It's quite an art that we all have to learn. And then on an exhale, let's point those toes, rounding our spine forward to wherever feels like a comfortable stretch for you. And coming back up, ditch the cushion if you had a cushion. We're going to take a slow motion roll down of the spine, one last bit of core before we settle in for our final Shavasana. So flexing those feet again. We're going to exhale, draw in the low belly to spine, Trying to tuck the tailbone and set one vertebrae super, super slowly back down to the floor at a time. As if you're moving through molasses. Each vertebrae is gently meeting the earth. Even all the way up into the neck and head. Head will be the last thing. When it reaches the ground, let it settle in heavy there. Arms come overhead for one big stretch. And then we'll slide those arms down, palm facing the sky. Legs a little bit wider than hips. Letting everything just fully, fully relax. Imagining as if the bones of every limb are getting heavier, settling into the gravity and comfort of the earth. Feeling held, fully, fully relaxed. Using one last bit of imagination to send a wave of gratitude to every cell in your body. As if they were all vibrating at a higher and happier frequency. We'll be here for about 4 minutes. But do take a longer Shavasana if you need. Slowly bringing a little bit of awareness back into your body by wiggling the fingers or the toes. Eventually stretching long as if you're waking up again. Before rolling gently to one side of your body. And taking your time to make your way back up to seated. Namaste. Thank you for practicing with me today.